Victory over drugs is our cause, a just cause. And with your help, we are going to win.
You've been lied to, not once, not by accident, but for over 50 years, by the people you elected, the media you trusted, and the system you thought was built to protect you. The war on drugs? It was never really about drugs. It was about fear, about control, about power. Let's rewind to June 17, 1971. President Richard Nixon stood in front of the American people and said,
"America's public enemy number one in the United States is drug abuse. In order to fight and defeat this enemy, it is necessary to wage a new all-out offensive."
It sounded noble, a war on addiction, a war to protect families. But behind the scenes, something much darker was brewing. Years later, in a 1994 interview, Nixon's domestic policy chief, John Ehrlichman, dropped a bombshell. Here's what he said.
"We knew we couldn't make it illegal to be either against the war or black. But by getting the public to associate the hippies with marijuana and blacks with heroin, and then criminalizing both heavily, we could disrupt those communities. We could arrest their leaders, raid their homes, break up their meetings, and vilify them night after night on the evening news. Did we know we were lying about the drugs? Of course we did."
This wasn't just an ulterior motive. That was an inside man admitting the truth. The war on drugs didn't begin as a public health mission, it began as a political weapon. Fast forward to the 1980s. America is about to go turbo.
Drugs are menacing our society. They're threatening our values and undercutting our institutions. They're killing our children.
And with that, the war on drugs entered its most aggressive phase. Enter Nancy Reagan with a slogan that fit perfectly on a bumper sticker.
When it comes to drugs and alcohol, just say no.
Ah yes, because the solution to a generational addiction and poverty was just a catchphrase away. In 1986, Congress passed the Anti-Drug Abuse Act. It wasn't just a law, it was a seismic shift. It introduced mandatory minimum sentences for drug crimes and created a 100-to-1 sentencing disparity between crack cocaine and powder cocaine. I think we actually have a whole video on that. Now here's where it gets bipartisan. In 1994, President Bill Clinton signed the Violent Crime Control and Law Enforcement Act, the largest crime bill in U.S. history.
Gangs and drugs have taken over our streets and undermined our schools. Every day we read about somebody else who has literally gotten away with murder. But the American people haven't forgotten the difference between right and wrong.
The bill added 100,000 new police officers, it allocated $9.7 billion for new prisons, and it introduced 3 strikes laws, meaning life sentences for repeat offenders, even for non-violent crimes. Within a decade, the US prison population doubled. America had become the incarceration capital of the world, where it remains to this day. Then came a new kind of drug epidemic. This time it wasn't crack, it was Oxycontin, fentanyl, Vicodin. But the narrative changed. The faces on TV weren't gang members, they were high school athletes, young professionals, parents. In the 1980s, addiction meant criminal records. Now it meant treatment centers. Why the shift? Because now the victims were living in suburbs, attending PTA meetings, donating to campaigns. The drug didn't change, the users did. And those users supported the candidates. While families suffered, someone was cashing checks. The prison industrial complex exploded. Companies like Geo Group and Core Civic signed billion-dollar contracts with the government. The more inmates, the more money. Police departments got bonuses in the form of federal grants. Drug arrest quotas turned into benchmarks for funding. Addiction became a budget line. Today, cannabis is legal in 24 states. You can buy a joint with Apple Pay. It's a lifestyle brand. But thousands are still behind bars for doing the exact same thing, selling weed. Some served decades. Their kids grew up without them. their records still block them from jobs and housing. Meanwhile, new companies rake in billions on legalized marijuana, many backed by investors who once funded the war on drugs. So what did the war on drugs actually accomplish? Not less drug use, not fewer overdoses, but it did leave deep scars. It tore apart families, it fed mass incarceration, it stripped millions of their right to vote. The US holds 25% of the world prisoners. 1 in every 4 prisoners is incarcerated for a drug offense. Every 25 seconds, someone is arrested for drug possession. This wasn't a war on drugs, it was a war on people, a war on poor communities, on dissent, on the very idea of rehabilitation. But now tides are turning. In 2022, President Biden issued a full pardon for all federal marijuana possession offenses.
No one should be in jail just for using or possessing marijuana. It's already legal in many states, and criminal records for marijuana possession have led to needless barriers to employment, to housing, and educational opportunities.
Oregon became the first state to decriminalize all drugs. Harm reduction centers are spreading. There's a new movement, one that treats addiction as a public health issue, not as a crime. But there's still a long way to go. We can't rewrite history, but we can stop repeating it. The first step is acknowledging the truth, which is exactly what we aim to do on this channel every single week. The war on drugs was a lie that cost lives, freedom, and trust in the very institutions meant to serve us. It's time to end the war and start the healing. Thank you for watching The Hidden Media.